In this video, I'm going to share on how to reach $1 million in running a tuition business. So my name is Haris and I have scaled my previous education business to seven figures. So I'm going to share, if I was a tutor, how I would reach to the $1 million mark. So for example, you're a math tutor who has earned $350,000, which is actually a very good revenue. So if you are already earning six figures, which is still very, very good. So I think this will be very helpful if you want to scale to, seven figures or $1 million in terms of revenue. So if you think this is a marketing video, this is not, you can click off. Otherwise, stay on because I think this will be very helpful. So essentially, how would you maybe reach to million? Basically 3x, right? Simple math. 350K, if you times 3, 1 million, which is essentially the answer. And the thing is that I would recommend, mainly I give advice to other tutors, is that you should actually just ask the students what subjects they need help with. So for example, they need help with science and English, and that's where, if hypothetically, and this is proven mathematically, if you are able to bring in a science and English tutor who is able to teach your current students the same amount of students, you literally 3x your revenue because you are able to provide more value and provide more subjects. And the thing is that, yes, I mean, obviously you will reach your $1 million mark, which is very, very good. But if you want to stay in one subject, you can, because that is where, with the same amount of students, you can just teach them from, maybe you start from math primary school and then secondary school and then also JC as well. So this is where you have a longer lifetime value for the students. And that's what most other tutors who've already reached seven figures or more are actually doing. Different levels or different subjects. So like Haris, I know this, how do I do this, right? So essentially you of course need to do hiring no matter what, whether you want to have different levels of your subject or different subjects. So I'm going to share also this thing called standards, which you will probably face when you were to hire, standards problem, and lastly the realities of hiring. So let's get started on the first one, which is hiring. So there's only two options roughly from, just now I mentioned is number one, you want to hire a teacher to teach another subject or level, or number two, which I highly recommend, is to hire another teacher to replace you. And if you were to, I mean, I say that I recommend to a teacher to replace you, right? Then a lot of tutors who I coach, they say, oh, the parents will not like it. And this is an assumption. And the thing is that most of the time you didn't execute this well, maybe in the past, and that's why you're still teaching and you're still wondering, why am I stuck in the revenue, right? And the thing is that if you were to actually listen to this sentence or something similar, it is what we call a sales objection. Maybe they say, I want you to teach. You already teach for so long, just continue teaching, right? And the thing is that you can, and you are basically, because now you're watching this video, right? And the thing is that if you were to dig deeper to what this sentence or sales objection is essentially, what do parents really care about? They really care about you, right? So for example, touch wood, maybe you had some life events and then you cannot teach at all. What the parents care? Do they care about you? No. What do they care is results. And that's the thing, is that if something happened to you, who is going to replace you to actually give results? And that's where hiring is very important, because number one, this is a bit off tangent, but this is what we call key man risk. So I've met tutors who, if they are sick and they still need to deliver the lesson, they teach when they're sick, which a lot of you have gone through, I assume. And if you don't, then that's a drop in revenue. And that's where parents be like, okay, they don't really care about you, they care about results. Like, maybe I'll go somewhere where I have consistent lessons, right? So now, if you were to have this sales objection, coming back to this, then usually what I recommend is to reply, what results are you looking for? Then the parents might be saying, actually, I want my kid to just improve by one grade. And then maybe most parents will be, oh, I want to have AL1, or I want to have A1, right, for my math kid subject. Yeah. So the thing is that you will say, okay, if I were to have another teacher who've already done this, and would you be, okay? They'll probably say okay, because what they want is results. So have the student or even parents in a mindset of, I can deliver you results. And that's why I'm going to share with you on how to deliver the standards to give results, right? So remember, parents care about results. So that's why I recommend you to have a teacher to replace you, generally lah, because you've already done it before. You already given results. And then another reason is also, who is good in when you're hiring, because you know the subject very well. So now you just need to know who is good at hiring. I mean, who is good in terms of teaching, and who is good in the technical aspect of it. And then once you are able to hire someone to replace you because you are very good at the subject itself, number two is use the time to create standards. So, like I say, this is just a guide. But if someone were to replace you, you have a lot more time to actually grow the business, because you know that if you, it's like tutoring is essentially just giving more time to practice to be good at something. So if you have more time for yourself, less teaching, you'll be good at running a business. Very simple, right? And using this time, you can create this thing called standards. So, what are essentially standards, right? So, before that, I'm going to ask, how do you conduct your own class? And then most of the time, you'll probably be like, okay, first I need to do this, then after I need to do this, then after I need to do this. Essentially, what you've created is this thing called standards, right? Because for some of you who have hired before, you hire and then it's like, oh, okay, this person not really good, but what is good, right? You have your own standards, you know what's good. And this is essentially because you have a set of instructions that you follow, right? So for me, when I hire, I have a set of instructions for the tutors or teachers that I hired to follow, because if they follow it, generally the class will do well, right? So most of the time, maybe you say, okay, first I need to revise the slides or the learning materials the day before the class, and that's the standard. So instead of you now teaching, you have someone else to teach to follow the standard you have created, which is are essentially just instructions, right? So this is the standard. So most of the time, what you do is that if you were to hire someone, they are probably maybe 6 stars, right? 6 out of 10, not so good. And then you have standards, which is essentially a list of instructions for them to follow. And of course, they won't be very good the first time, the second time, right? They might need time to get better at it. So that's where training comes in. But once they actually follow all the standards, so imagine if someone were to literally copy you every single thing that you do in a lesson, would they be as good as you? Of course. And most of the time, if you hire well, you actually will get someone better than you, which actually happened to me, because that's where, number one is that they have more time to actually be better at their teaching, right? So for me, my previous, full-time instructor was a student of mine, and that's the best like training. He literally saw how I teach, he just do what I've done, and then he improved on it. And I tell him many times, he is a very good like instructor, right? I really like him. So it's like, because he followed my standard and he improved not only on the teaching aspect but also my learning materials. So this is the advantage of hiring well. So standards are just instructions followed, right? I created an instructions for other tutors as well. If you want me to create a bunch of instructions, then you can just copy and paste and add your own. Let me know in the comments. Okay, so this is the same when, for example, you're a math tutor and then you created standards. Then if you were to hire another subject tutor, then you know what they do? They actually will live up to your standard and become, 10 out of 10. So standards, no matter what subject, will actually give you that, level, right? And maybe English is something that you are not familiar with, but at least when they follow the standard, they might be 8, and then you can work on it to 9 and 10, okay? Because every subject has their own standards, but generally it's just patterns that you follow on how a good teacher is. That's generally. And then there is some nuances or little things that different subjects have to follow, right? So these are things that you slowly will create. And I think I've mentioned this in my other videos, is that in business, the biggest thing that you care about is assets, because assets will make you scalable. Standards are a living document that can help you grow your business, because once you hire a lot of tuition centers, I mean a lot of tutors, right, or teachers, they follow your standard, you have a rough idea that they are minimally maybe 8 out of 10, right? So that's why this is very very important. So you can, like, write down exactly, like, track literally what you do every time you go to a lesson, and that's the standard. And if a teacher were to follow it, that's where you can actually scale outside other than you. Okay, now you'll be like, okay, okay, I'm gonna hire, I'm gonna create standards, I'm gonna create instructions, a living document, whatever, right? So I'm gonna share with you the realities of what happens when you do this, right? So number one is parents complain. Oh, you've been teaching, what you need to, have another teacher. So this is something that I've heard from a tutor who have already scaled to 7 figures, right? Parents complain, and that's very normal as well, because they do that. But the thing is that, like I say, if you've done it properly, you have your sales objection where you say, okay, like, yeah, this is how our business is growing, and we are following a standard, and we believe that this will improve the results. And then you can say, if you are still not happy, then okay lah. But in the end, you are still able to hire, or work outside of you, right? You have other people working on the business, and now you can slowly create a standard. And then that's where, if you can give the standard well, if you manage the tutors well according to the standards, most of the time the students will actually improve and actually get results. And then sometimes students complain, but if you hire well, generally it's okay, right? Students do complain, mainly, right? They complain, which I faced before, because I have tutors who, or teachers who replace me, or replace my previous full-time instructor. They complain because the teachers suck, generally, because I didn't hire well lah, essentially. So that is where you need someone to follow the standards, and hiring well as well, that is very important. Okay. Number three is like, if you have not hired before, you will face bad hires, which is a very normal process, right? And then that's where you learn how to filter people properly, and that's where values come in. Because for those who have experience, people who are very smart, who can have a certain way of teaching, but they don't follow your values, then it's not fit for them, right? And that's where hires that don't fit your value, and you slowly know what your values after a bad few hires, right? But if you really sit down to actually know what values you care about, you can Google values and just choose the top three. Then this is where you're able to see how you can work together. And actually, that is going to make your team very, very strong. And of course, there will be a dip in revenue, because if you were to hire a full-time teacher, then of course you will have in terms of, maybe, I don't say dip in revenue, but dip in profits generally lah, right? But in essence lah, right? And that's very normal, because you are taking in someone. So there's many way you can, in a way, reduce this risk. You can do a profit sharing, meaning that you have a teacher come in, and then you just do profit sharing, so you don't put money up front. But if you really want this tutor very very, like, and they don't want a profit sharing, and they want salary, and that's where you, as a business owner, need to get students from marketing, do something to get students to go and be taught by this tutor that you really want, right? So that's something that I've listened to when someone were to hire, right? It's very normal, right? But I mean, in the future, if they do well, it's not a dip, it's a exponential growth in terms of your revenue, which is something that you want. Then after a while, you'll be managing rather than teaching, because if you continue teaching and you hire another tutor, now you don't have enough time for you to do other stuff, because you're going to manage this teacher. That's why I recommend you to someone to replace you first, so that you know how to manage this tutor. And then once you create the standards, you know what values you're looking for, then that's why you can hire another subject tutor or another level tutor to just grow the business with you as well. So, and that's where you will have to do more managing rather than teaching. And if you don't like managing, then either find someone to manage, or just really have to talk to yourself. Do you want to not teach anymore, right? If you're okay with that, great. If you're not okay with that, then just continue teaching, and there's nothing wrong as well. So this, welcome to business is all about problem solving, right? If you don't like problems, then it's hard life for you, like, generally lah. But if you like solving problems, or you actually generally like doing stuff in business to grow the business, right, then business is for you. Otherwise, it's okay to be a freelancer. Nothing wrong with that. So you can stay the same, what you're doing right now, stay comfortable, and that's okay, right? I mean, later on I will share lah. But honestly, that's okay, because if you just want to stay the same, earning your six figures, which is a very good income, then it's okay. Nothing wrong with that. Otherwise, you will have to be uncomfortable, and with uncomfortability, then you will grow, because there is no way for you to grow without feeling uncomfortable, right? Hearing parents complain, all of this, because this is like, it's very fluffy, but it is the reality of running a business. Because if you want to scale as big as you want, you have to be a different person. You cannot be the freelance tutor that you are right now. You need to be a manager. You need to now manage a team. You need to direct the business to where you want to be. You need to hire, you need to fire, and these are things that will make you some of you uncomfortable. It has made me very uncomfortable, but with this, I believe it led me to help the business grow to seven figures. So generally, there's no wrong or right in terms of running a business, right? There is only the realities of business, and whether you want to accept just being where you are right now, or where you want to be. And like I say, if you want to stay the same, then that's fine, right? Or you want to grow, and the reality of growing is you have to be uncomfortable, right? So welcome to business. You can do whatever you want, right? This is just my advice, right? So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and if you want more of these kind of videos, subscribe down below and comment down what other videos that you want to see, right? So in reality, like, marketing is not like the major important thing, because if you market very well, which I think some of you are doing, then you have a lot of students coming in, and you sometimes cannot take in a lot of students. So in the end, what is the biggest, like, multiplier to your business is hiring. And for me, hiring is one of the best things that can happen to you if you do it well, because it will fundamentally grow your business, and you have more time and space to think about how you want to grow, and how you want to be, if you want to be the best. That's it. See you in the next one. Bye bye.